Hi, this is Sandra with Spondy Strong, and I'm here to teach you a mat yoga class today. This class involves poses and movements that address the whole body and is intended for people who have ankylosing spondylitis or spondyloarthritis like me. This class is also intended for people who are able to get down on the floor, as well as do some standing poses and a few poses on our hands and knees and on our backs. Before we get started, just a note that as you follow along, if any poses that we do cause any pain, I would encourage you to skip those ones. I think that yoga is really about doing what feels best in your body at any given time. I'll try to offer alternative options whenever possible. And also, before starting a new exercise routine, please just consult with your doctor to make sure that it's going to be appropriate for you. And then as far as what you need for class today, a yoga mat, if you have it, is nice. Otherwise, you can use a rug or maybe a blanket or towel on top of your carpet at home. If you happen to have two yoga mats, I like using that for extra cushioning. And then a blanket or towel is nice to have. I'm sitting on my folded blanket just to get a little bit more space in my spine at the start of class. And then if you happen to have yoga blocks or something like yoga blocks, maybe some small firm pillows. We won't be using them much, but they can just be nice to have for some extra support. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start seated. If you have your blanket or towel, you can fold it so that it's maybe an inch or two thick, and then sit right at the edge of it so that your sitting bones, those bones at the bottom of your pelvis, are right on the edge of your blanket, and that allows your pelvis to tilt a little bit, letting you sit up a little bit taller. You can have your hands resting gently in your lap, and then if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes, taking a few moments to arrive at our class today. Feeling your sitting bones grounded on the floor, letting your spine be long, letting your shoulders float down away from your ears, relaxing them downwards. And then take a few deep breaths in and out through your nose, starting to slow down and deepen your breathing. Trying to let go of any thoughts or worries about what was happening before this or what's going to happen afterwards. Just focusing on the present moment. And then on your next inhale, imagine your lungs expanding in all directions, side to side, up and down. And then exhale all the air out, emptying out your lungs. And then whenever you're ready, you can allow your eyes to float open. All right, welcome. We'll start with some gentle neck movements. This is how I always like to start. So we have a few different options. You can either turn your head to look gently from side to side, just going as far as feels comfortable for your neck today. Or maybe you might want to tilt your head gently from side to side, bringing each ear towards each shoulder, taking as much time as you'd like on each side. Or if it feels okay for your neck, you can also bring one ear to one shoulder and then circle your chin down towards your chest, eventually bringing your other ear over to your other shoulder, and then going back and forth a few times. Still trying to sit up as tall as you can, even if your head is coming forward. And taking a couple more rounds of whatever neck movements are feeling good for you. Maybe you want to try more than one kind. And then whenever both sides feel even, then you can come back to center. And then bring your hands onto your lap. Circle your shoulders a few times, going backwards in space, either making small gentle circles, or maybe you want to press your hands down into your lap in order to really send your shoulders up high towards your ears. Continuing to breathe deeply, starting to wake up our shoulders. And then you can flip your palms over and circle your shoulders a few times, going forwards in space. And then you can go ahead and let that go. And then keeping your pelvis grounded, start to circle your torso over your pelvis, going a few times in one direction making some big circles, starting to stretch out your lower back and the sides of your body. Continuing to breathe deeply. And then after a few rounds in one direction, then you can go the other direction. If you'd like, when you come forward, maybe you might stretch the fronts of your shoulders. This is one of my favorites. And then when both sides feel even, then you can come back to center. And then bring your feet straight out in front of you, trying to sit up as tall as you can. You can have your knees a little bit bent. Bring your hands out in front as well, and then circle your wrists and ankles a few times, going outwards, starting to wake up all of your joints. And then you can reverse, circling inwards a few times. Noticing all those little movements in your wrists and your ankles. And then you can let that go. From here, we'll come onto our hands and knees. And if you'd like to have some extra cushioning under your knees, you could bring your blanket under your knees, maybe unfolding it so it's a little bit wider and thinner. And then you can bring your knees to your blanket so that they're hip distance apart and they're right underneath your hips. Your wrists are right underneath your shoulders. Try not to hyperextend your elbows the way that I do. I try to not do that. And then when you're ready on your inhale, start to arch your spine any amount, letting your forehead and tailbone come towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, round your spine, tucking your chin, looking towards your belly button. And then continue a few rounds like that, moving on your own breath, inhaling to come forward into cow pose. And exhaling to round your spine in cat. When you come forward, think about broadening your collarbones. Maybe you feel a slight opening in your chest. And when you round your spine, imagine puffing your back up toward the ceiling as high as it goes. Taking a couple more rounds, moving on your own breath. And then the next time that you finish rounding your spine, then we'll meet back in neutral. And then from your tabletop position, walk each of your hands forward, one handprint, so that you're lengthening your stance. Make sure your hands are even with each other, your middle fingers are pointing straight forward, you're spreading all 10 fingers, and then tuck your toes under and lift your hips up for downward dog. So in downward dog, we're aiming to send our sitting bones up as high toward the ceiling as they can go. It's okay if your knees are bent. The goal is more to get a long line from your tailbone all the way to the crown of your head rather than straightening your legs. But you can start to straighten your legs any amount if you'd like. It can feel nice to pedal out your feet, straightening one leg at a time, stretching each calf. Make sure that you're still pressing into all 10 fingers, especially the pointer finger and thumb side of your hand. And then maybe you find some stillness in downward dog. And then gently bring your knees down as wide as your mat. Bring your toes together. We're going to sit back for child's pose, but if you used a blanket, you might want to move it out of the way for now. And then you can stretch your hands out in front of you, bringing your forehead down to the mat. We'll take a few deep breaths here. Your choice if you want to really reach your fingertips forward, stretching your arms out long. Maybe press into your hands in order to send your tailbone closer towards your heels. Or maybe you relax your forearms down. You can flip your palms up, resting your wrists. Taking a few deep breaths, releasing the lower back. And then when you're ready, if you flipped your palms, you can flip them back over. Come back up to your hands and knees, and then tuck your toes, lifting your hips back up for downward dog, taking another breath or two in down dog, and then bend your knees and walk your feet all the way forward to meet your hands, finding yourself at the top of your mat in a forward fold. And then once you get there, you can roll yourself up to stand, maybe walking your hands up your legs, letting your head be the last thing to come up. All right, So from here we'll do a couple of modified sun salutations. We'll start in mountain pose. So our feet are inner hip distance apart, toes are pointing straight forward. You're standing up really tall, imagining someone's pulling a string from the crown of your head up toward the ceiling, but your shoulders aren't sneaking up towards your ears. You can externally rotate your arms a little bit in order to broaden your collarbones. And then on your next inhale, sweep your arms out and up toward the ceiling. Maybe you look towards your hands. As you exhale, fold forward, hinging from your hips and coming all the way down into a forward fold. You can bend your knees as much as you'd like here, maybe letting your torso rest on your thighs. And this is a place where if you happen to have yoga blocks, these can be nice to use if you want to bring the floor a little bit closer to you. And then on your next inhale, extend your spine, reaching the crown of your head forward, trying to make a flat back shape. You can bring your hands to your shins. On your next exhale, fold back down into forward fold. And then on your inhale, sweep your arms out and up toward the ceiling, reaching up tall. And then exhale your arms back down to your sides for mountain pose. We'll do a similar thing again, this time building on a little bit. On your next inhale, sweep your arms out and up toward the ceiling, reaching upwards. Exhaling as you fold down over your legs, forward fold. On your inhale, extend your spine, flat back. And then on your exhale, bend your knees as much as you need to in order to plant your hands down on the mat, and then step back to plank. You can reset your hands if you'd like. You can always bring your knees down to the mat. The goal is to activate your core, reaching the crown of your head forward. And then go ahead and come into downward facing dog. Maybe resetting your feet, checking out your hands, pressing into all 10 fingers, lifting your sitting bones up high toward the ceiling. Taking a couple deep breaths here. And then at the bottom of your next exhale, bend your knees and start to walk your feet forward to meet your hands, ending at the top of your mat. On your next inhale, extend your spine, flat back. Exhale down into forward fold. And on your inhale, sweep your arms out and up toward the ceiling, reaching up tall. And then exhale your arms all the way back down to mountain pose. Close your eyes for a moment, just noticing what's happening with your heart rate and your breathing. Noticing the energy moving through your body. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. All right, so now we'll do some balancing. If you'd like a little extra help with balance, you can always come to a wall, bringing one hand onto the wall, or if you have a chair or other piece of furniture nearby, you can bring one hand onto your chair. And then bring your feet so that they're inner hip distance apart with your toes pointing straight forward. Bring your weight into your left foot, bending your right knee, and then turning your whole leg out from the hip. Decide if you want your foot to be a kickstand down on the floor with the ball of your foot on the floor and your heel against your lower leg. You can also bring your foot against your calf or all the way up onto your thigh, just avoiding your knee, not placing your foot against your knee. And then find something out in front of you to look at that's not moving to help with your balance. We'll be here for a couple of breaths. Maybe you bring your hands together at the center of your chest. Maybe you lift them up toward the ceiling. Taking a couple deep breaths, pressing your foot into your leg and your leg into your foot. And then when you're ready, you can lower your arms down, release your foot, and maybe shake out the legs a little bit. All right, so now we'll do our other side, bringing our weight into our right foot, picking up our left, turning the whole leg out, and then deciding where you want to place your foot for your tree pose. Finding your balance, pressing your foot into your leg and your leg into your foot, and then deciding where you'd like to place your hands. Taking a few deep breaths, trying to stand up as tall as you can. And then when you're ready, you can lower your arms down, release your foot, and shake it out. Alrighty. So we'll be coming to the top of our mats one more time in order to make our way down onto the floor. You can start in mountain pose again, feet hip distance apart. And then on your next inhale, sweep your arms out and up toward the ceiling, reaching upwards. And exhale as you fold down over your legs. And this time we'll stay in our forward fold for a few breaths. So if you do have those blocks or something like blocks, if you want to bring the floor a little closer to you, you can place your hands on those. Let your head hang down. Or maybe you don't want to use blocks. If you'd like, you can hold on to opposite elbows, really letting your torso hang down. Taking a few deep breaths here. If you held onto your elbows, you can switch the cross of your arms. And then when you're ready, release your hands down to the mat, bending your knees as much as you need to in order to plant your hands down. And then go ahead and step back to plank, setting yourself up with your wrists right under your shoulders. Again, your knees could be down, taking a breath in plank. And then bring your knees down if they're not already, untuck your toes, and then see if you can lower yourself all the way down to your belly by bending your elbows straight back behind you like a tricep push-up. And then once you get there, if you want to scoot yourself back a little bit so that your forehead can be on your mat, you can scoot yourself back. And then we'll be coming into upward facing boat pose, which is a great back strengthener and a little bit of a back bend. Your arms can either be stretched out in front of you, or for a little bit less load on your lower back, you could also do cactus arms. And then when you're ready, on your inhale, lift everything up at once, your forehead, arms, and legs. And we're thinking about length more than height here, trying to stretch out long from your toes to the crown of your head, feeling the activation of your low back muscles, remembering to breathe. And then when you're ready, on your exhale, slowly lower everything down. You can let your forehead come down, taking a couple breaths to rest. And then when you're ready, we'll do that one more time. Maybe you want to do the same arms as before, or maybe you want to try the other kind. When you're ready, on your inhale, lift everything up at once, forehead, arms, and legs, stretching out long, remembering to breathe, still thinking of length more than height. And then as you're ready, on your exhale, slowly lower everything back down. And then this time, stack your palms on top of each other, making a little pillow for your forehead. If it feels good, you can let your hips rock from side to side, releasing your lower back. And then when you're ready, bring your palms back to the floor underneath your shoulders so that you can press yourself up to your hands and knees, setting yourself back up in a tabletop position. We'll just be here for a couple breaths. Feel free to bring the blanket under your knees if you need to. And then we'll do a couple of cat-cows from side to side. So bring your right hip and right shoulder towards each other. Maybe you look back towards that right hip. And then come back to center. Then bring your left hip and left shoulder towards each other. Maybe looking back towards the left hip. And then come back to center. You can take a couple more rounds, moving at your own pace. Thinking of moving your spine in the opposite plane as that cat-cow we did at the beginning of class. So side to side rather than front to back. And then the next time that you finish your second side, then you can come back to neutral. And then we'll be making our way down to a seated position. So you can sit back on your heels or however you want to get there. We'll be sitting down on our mats. And if you would like to have your blocks or pillows for an extra support, you can get your blocks handy. We'll be doing Badakonasana, or bound angle pose. So we're bringing the soles of our feet together. And your feet can be as far or as close to you as feels comfortable for you. And if your knees are way up high or this just doesn't feel very good for you, that's where you can use your blocks or pillows under your knees as a support. And we'll start by trying to sit up as tall as we can. You can hold on to your feet or ankles, really lengthening your spine upwards. And then start to hinge forward any amount, not trying to force your head down towards your feet or any particular destination, but trying to keep a long spine and focusing on that opening of the hips. If it's available, you could gently press your elbows into your legs in order to encourage them to open. And maybe your head relaxes downwards. You can close your eyes, taking a few deep breaths, getting a nice hip opener. If you notice your thoughts starting to wander, just notice when that happens. Let them go, bringing your attention back to your breath, back to the physical sensations in your body. And then when you're feeling ready to come out of this pose, on your inhale, reach the crown of your head forward, trying to keep a long spine as you hinge yourself back up to upright. And then you can bring your hands underneath your knees, folding them back inwards. And from here, we'll be coming down onto our backs. However you want to get there, you can either come down onto your forearms or however you need to make your way down onto your back. And then go ahead and hug your knees in towards your chest, either holding on outside your shins or behind your thighs. Gently giving yourself a nice squeeze. And then bring your feet down onto the floor so that they are inner hip distance apart with your toes and knees pointing straight forward. Your heels are pretty close to you, so you can just touch them with your fingertips. And then when you're ready, we'll come into bridge pose. On your inhale, press down into your feet as you start to lift your hips up toward the ceiling. And imagine that you have an invisible strap tied around your thighs, keeping them parallel. So your knees aren't coming out to the sides, your legs are staying parallel. We'll be here for a few deep breaths. If this feels like too much on your back, you can always come down a little bit lower. It's still a great strengthener for the legs and glutes, and gives you a gentle back bend, stretching the front of the body. And then whenever you're ready, on your exhale, slowly lower down until your hips come back down to the mat. And then taking a breath in neutral. And then bring your feet as wide as your mat, letting your knees rest against each other in constructive rest for a couple breaths, resetting your spine. And then you can let your knees come apart. You can bring your arms out to a T shape or a cactus shape if you don't have enough space. And then let both knees come down towards the right any amount. And then both knees can come down towards the left any amount. As long as this feels okay for you, you can take a couple rounds back and forth, releasing your hips. And then when both sides feel even, you can let your knees come back to center. And then if there's any last poses or movements that you feel like you need before we set up for our final rest, if you want to hug your knees in towards your chest again, maybe stretch your feet up toward the ceiling and circle your ankles, whatever last movements you feel like you need. And then if you'd like to put on socks or a sweater or anything to help you stay warm for our final rest, you can grab whatever you need. And then for our final relaxation, you can either lie flat on your back, or maybe you want to bring a rolled blanket underneath your knees. You can lie down like that. Or if it's not feeling comfortable for you to lie down on the floor, feel free to lie down on your bed or a couch or anywhere that's more comfortable for you. Another option is if I had a chair or a couch nearby, I could rest my calves on top of that chair or couch, maybe bringing my mat along with me or whatever I need for some cushioning. So take a moment just to find whatever is going to feel most comfortable for you, setting up for our final rest. And then coming to lie down on your back, making any last adjustments that you need. You can feet flop out to the sides. Maybe bring your shoulder blades underneath you a little bit, letting your chest open. And then closing your eyes if they're not already. Starting to let everything slow down, sinking down into the floor. Not needing to do any work to hold yourself up. We'll be here for a minute or two. If you do notice your thoughts starting to wander, just notice when that happens. Imagine that your thoughts are just clouds passing in the sky. Just noticing them and letting them go. You can always come back to them later. And if you find it difficult to quiet your mind, you might turn your attention to the feeling of the air coming in through your nose and the feeling of the air as it goes out through your nose. Attention to begin to return to the present moment. Allow your breath to begin to deepen. Start to gently move your fingers and your toes. You can circle your ankles and your wrists a little bit. And then when you're ready, stretch your arms up overhead, stretching out long like you just woke up after a restful sleep. And as you're ready, you can bring your arms back down by your sides, bending your knees, bringing your feet to the floor. Eventually coming down onto one side, maybe taking a moment in a fetal position. And then as you're ready, you can make your way up to a seated position, either keeping your eyes closed or keeping a soft gaze down at the floor. Feeling your sitting bones grounded on the floor, letting your spine be long, reaching the crown of your head up toward the ceiling. Your shoulders float down away from your ears. Take a moment just to notice how you're feeling right now, physically and mentally. And then on your next inhale, make it your deepest one so far, filling your whole entire lungs and belly up with air. And then exhale all the air out. If you'd like, you can join me in bringing your hands together at the center of your chest. Taking a deep inhale as you lift your chest up into your hands. And as you exhale, allow your head to bow down any amount. Feeling gratitude for taking this time for yourself today. Namaste. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this yoga sequence, and thank you so much to the Spondylitis Association of America for this collaboration. Thank you. Be well. Bye.